Kenya is limited. And it is limited by the application, by the dint of application of Article 1 of the Constitution, which is to the effect that the people are sovereign. So if you introduce the Basic Structure Doctrine in a popular initiative, that means that you are subordinating the power of the people, the very people who made this Constitution, and they are the only people who have power to change this Constitution. Again, if you apply the Basic Structure Doctrine in a popular initiative, then you negate the very essence of Article 2 of the Constitution, which provides that any other law which is in contravention of this Constitution is null and void. It is null and void simply because the Constitution has explicit provisions which stipulates the manner in which it is supposed to be amended. And if an amendment does not fall in Article 256, then it falls in Article 257. And there is no explicit provision providing that there are some articles in the Constitution which are unamendable. The Constitution is silent. So any other law purporting or trying to insinuate that there are some reserved constitutional provisions which cannot be amended even by the very people who brought into existence this Constitution, then that provision, that doctrine, that philosophy should fall. And it falls because of the sovereignty of the people and by the dint of application of Article 2 of the Constitution, which nullifies any law that is in contravention with the Constitution.
Thank you. Anyone with a question? A clarification? Raise your hand kindly if you have a question, a clarification. I can see two hands. So we start with Rosemary and then we go back to Echong. Yes, Rosemary?
Yes, thank you. I'd like a clarification. I haven't understood what the basic structure means. And also, I heard during the BBI proceedings that maybe the president should use the parliament to lodge an amendment. So in that situation, how will the president go about it? Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much for that question. I start with the first issue on the Basic Structure Doctrine. The Basic Structure Doctrine, simply put, this was first established in the Kasanavanda case in India. Basically, the history of this doctrine was that it was brought to solve land issues in India, because the parliament there, those people in power, they really amended the constitution and other legislations arbitrarily to favor them. Therefore, the court intervened and it introduced the Basic Structure Doctrine to the effect that there were some provisions which were unamendable. Therefore, this is a foreign doctrine to start with. It is imported in the country to inform the manner in which the Constitution should be interpreted. And I don't dispute, it's a good doctrine to apply in the country, but it cannot be applied in every aspect of constitutional amendment, particularly where you are involving the people who are the supreme. The other aspect of your question is about making constitutional amendment through parliament. If anyone, or to be specific, the president want to make the constitutional amendment in parliament, then he must shy away from constitutional amendments which fall within the popular initiative. And among them is provisions which are to the effect that you change the territory of Kenya, you change the tenure of the presidency, you change the independence of our judiciary and other independent institutions, among other things. So in case the president wants to make constitutional amendments, then him or she must limit himself to the provisions which are not a reserve of popular initiative. Constrain himself to the provisions of Article 257. There are explicit provisions in the manner in which the constitution may be changed by the parliament. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Echom, your hand was raised.
Yes, thank you. My question is, and maybe I want to digress a little bit. My question is about presidential immunity. And I have seen this question arising in the BBI appeal hearing. Under Article 143(2) of the Constitution, it talks about presidential immunity insofar as civil cases are concerned. And so my question is, in your regard, is this immunity absolute or is it a limited immunity? And I remember Justice Muthinga posed this question to one of the respondent advocates, and he asked, supposing the president, in his capacity as a citizen, he has a dispute with his neighbor. Maybe they have gotten into a land contract and they're having a dispute in his capacity as a citizen. So is this neighbor supposed to wait for the president to come to an end, for his tenure in office to come to an end before this citizen can move to court and enforce his rights insofar as the land agreement is concerned? Or can he just move to court and enforce his rights?
Okay, thank you very much for the question. By the way, it's a very interesting question. And to start with, I would like to point out the intention of the makers of this constitution, especially in Article 143(2), which is to the effect that the president is immune. The makers of this constitution had a legitimate aim of ensuring that the president has a smooth time in delivery of his promises to the people. And should not be lost on us that the president has a duty to deliver services, unify the country. So it was basically meant not to keep the president busy in court, therefore denying him ample time and opportunity to serve his people. But now you've raised a very interesting issue about private disputes. And I really feel that some of human rights violations cannot wait the president to finish his tenure. And but now the problem comes in, there is no explicit provision in the constitution providing that the president in his personal capacity can be taken before the court. So this can only demand a jurisprudential interpretation and holistic interpretation of the constitution, and striking a balance between human rights, which should be protected, and also the president's duty not to be impeded by numerous court cases. Therefore, I really feel, to be specific in answering your question, this is not an absolute immunity in the sense that it also has timelines. It has timelines because the president cannot be a president forever. So this aspect of absoluteness, it is limited in the first place by time, although it is not lost on me that some disputes are supposed to be expeditiously hard and determined due to also limitation of action. Therefore, I really feel that in as much as the president has acted outside the scope of his explicit provisions, then I really feel that these rights should not be absolute, especially where in his personal capacity, not acting as a president, he has violated any human right. This should not be absolute and should not wait. But in a circumstance where the president has violated human rights in advancing national interest, in advancing his duties as a president, then this immunity should hold waters. So I think that that is clear from the onset that the intention was to ensure that the president is not held by numerous court cases. Then also a balance should be struck between protecting human rights, which are mostly violated, and also to ensure, due to limitation of action, the president in capacity should also be taken to court in case of a violation. But there is also a very interesting aspect that this is a tenured institution. And tenured institution, the Constitution also has provided mechanisms in the manner in which the occupants should be dealt with in case of a violation. One of them is the judges. The judges are not supposed to be taken to the very court they serve. They're supposed to be taken to the Judicial Service Commission. So is the president. There is a mechanism in the Constitution through impeachment. But now it also raises another interesting issue, that is this private citizen in a position to marshal enough MPs to suffice the president impeachment? Therefore, that is a very interesting question that the court is supposed to be to grapple with. But in my humble opinion, this is what I submit. As much as the president is acting for the interest of the country, within the confines of his explicit duty, the president is not supposed to be kept busy in our courts. But if the president is acting outside the scope of his mandate, violating human rights, then the court should intervene and he should be prosecuted in his personal capacity if the impeachment through parliament is not possible. Thank you.
Thank you. Philip, you can ask your question. His hand was up. Philip?
Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
I think clarification that I would have loved to hear from Mr. David is that most of, especially when responding to a question that was asked by that the lady, the madam, is that that was his opinion and that he was not quoting it from any source or authority. So I think the reason why I actually lowered my hand is because he clarified that at the tail end when he said it is from his very humble opinion. He responded that. So that was basically his opinion. He was not actually speaking from a point of authority. Well, I would believe there is also that aspect of tolling of cases, whereby if it's now for a president who is maybe sitting and you see now the action is told until maybe his office, and so that now he can now face the consequences of his actions. But anyway, I appreciate the submissions, and it's a very, very good and a wonderful platform.
Thank you, Philip, for your contribution. Echom again. And it's now 8:48, so we have around 12 minutes to round up. So Echom, if you could ask your question.